Welcome to Are You Killing It, the podcast powered by Peak Performance Partners, where our mission is to help your business achieve success faster. I'm your host, Dr. John Ronaldo, and each week our team of business experts brings you the tools, insights, and strategies you need to kill it in your business. No fluff, just real talk to fuel your growth. So let's dive in. Gentlemen, are you killing it today?
We are killing it.
Killing it? Are you sure?
Absolutely.
I love it. I love
Kill
it.
it.
I am joined here, as always, with the founders and the owners of Peak Performance Partners. Across from me, I got Kevin Hernandez.
Yes,
What's
sir.
going on, brother? Everything
Morning.
good?
How are you?
Life is good?
Life is great.
Thriving?
Yes.
I love it. We got Ricky Navarre. I don't even know what that is. What is that? And we got Patrick Stewart. How do you respond to that?
That's a high eye.
That's a high.
You're
eye.
Yeah.
Keep listening, you're going to find out.
And that is the topic of today's podcast episode. For Are You Killing It? We're going to continue our deep dive into DISC. And today we're going to talk about inside the high I personality. So we've done a couple episodes on DISC already. We did an overview. We did a deep dive into D. Now we're going to do a deep dive into I. And guess what, folks? Ricky is a high I.
100.
So Kevin, Patrick, and I are really just going to leave and let Ricky just do this entire
Ricky do the show
podcast
by himself,
because
like he will.
he could talk for 25 minutes on this topic alone. Am I lying? I was not lying.
I would love it. You all, okay, go get some water, grab me some lunch.
Yeah.
Before I pass it on to Ricky, and we never get a chance to say anything again, Patrick, can you just give us a brief overview of DISC, just in case some folks don't know?
Watch what brief means.
Brief.
Yeah, there is an I in brief, right? Ricky's like, yeah, there's an I. No, so I stand. What it means is influence, right? And it truly is. It's how you want to influence others to your way of thinking is what an I is. So how you picture an I is this. They're the ones, and we all have the friends. They're the high fivers. They're the huggers. You ask them a question and they're going to give you the answer. They always want to know how you're doing, how are you feeling? And when they say it, they truly mean it. I mean, they're like, how's it going? You know, when the I in the office is the one that you go up and go, hey, how was your weekend? And then they start telling you, and you're like, oh, dang it, here's Susie again. She's going to tell me. That's your high I. And so it just truly is like they're just energetic. They're outgoing, expressive. Yeah,
So before we go heavy into I, Kevin, real quickly, D, S, and C, give us a brief rundown of this, and I'll point people to the website here so they can find out more, but give us a brief rundown of all that.
Of the what?
D, S, and C, just so we understand the full DISC, what DISC is.
D is driver, right? I is influencer. Your S is somebody who is like supportive. And then your C is the person that's very calculating.
Very calculated, right. So, again, we're going to have an opportunity to keep diving into this. If you're interested in finding out more about DISC or want to find out what your kind of default behavioral status is here on DISC, go check out 3-peak.com. We got the whole analysis there for you to do. And DISC is something this group loves, man. I love it too. So I'm really excited about it. Okay, so we got D, I, S, and C. And I think we were talking about it in one of the previous podcasts. So Patrick, you're kind of a high D, high.
yeah, I got DI. DI or both
DI,
above the
okay.
midline. Yeah.
And Kevin, you're
DI,
DI,
C,
and I'm like
low S.
I'm like like 0 S or low S.
Low. I'm
Low S, and I'm like a high I, D. I'm a little bit of C when I need to be, but then there's Ricky over here.
There's Ricky.
And there's a reason we set it up this way, because Ricky, can you real quickly tell us what your DISC profile is?
I'm an anomaly because I am 100 I naturally. I can't get any higher, right? When the Energizer Bunny runs out of power, I juice him up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I am extreme energy and optimism, and God bless my wife and kids, because people are like, oh, that's so cool, you know, right? Because they get it in like a dose. They're like, Ricky's so energetic. He's so happy all the time. And then my wife's like, they're like, so is he like this all the time? She's like, yes.
Just to give you an example, he comes in. He came in the other morning. He's like, Kevin, how you doing? I go, not great. He goes, great.
That's great. That's great that you're not great.
That means more for us to talk about, right? Yeah.
Hey, but you're live. Great. Let's talk about it. Thank you, Lord.
The high eye always gives you something to be great, to be thankful and grateful for.
There it is. There it is. There
that
it is.
energy.
So, okay, Ricky, I'm gonna let you describe yourself in a few words. High eye. What would be those adjectives that say this is what a high eye is?
I would say a high eye. The high eyes, and if you're this individual, you know exactly who I'm talking about. You're energetic, optimistic, outgoing individual. You're a people person. You love people. Strangers are friends we just haven't met yet, right? Like we're huggers, we're high fivers. We are, whatever the situation, we're there for it. And you know, you can volunteer me for almost anything, right? Like, hey, will you talk? Yes, I will. You're gonna have to get the hook and pull me off. But we love people. We love relationship. The other thing about high eyes is we move very quick and we are creative problem solvers. So much so that where a lot of people sometimes find roadblocks or obstacles. You know, people say, hey, are you thinking outside the box? For high eyes, there is no box, right? Like we'll come up with off the wall ideas. And for us, as long as it's fun and exciting, right, or will make us look good, we're in. That's a high eye. You know, they're going to be their team member to pick you up on a rough day and keep going.
Now, this episode is for, obviously, folks who are high eye are going to resonate with this. You're like, yeah, that's me. I'm in, right? I'm totally that. But this episode is also for those of us who are not high eyes, who have to deal with high eyes. And when we say deal, I mean that in jest, because obviously there's a lot of blessings and gifts that high eyes bring to the table.
Some of your best entertainers are high.
100%. But there are some challenges that, especially those of us who aren't high eyes, dealing with high eye, we're like, how do we control this guy? How do we rope them in? So we're going to break that open here a little bit as we go a little farther. So Patrick, I'm going to turn back to you. You know, what motivates a high eye? What are the things that get them going up in the morning?
F-U-N, fun.
Fun. You've got to be fun.
You tell them it's fun, they're in. Yeah, they want to have fun. They want to have a good time. They want to, they want to lead. They're exciting. They want to be excited. They're excitable. So yeah, I would say fun.
They want to make people feel good too.
Mm-hmm. They do, absolutely. Okay, so Patrick, Kevin, you guys are both a little bit on the high D spectrum here a little bit. And so say there's a high D CEO or manager that has a direct report like Ricky who's a high I. What do you do to make sure that this high I continues to remain motivated? Like, because that's obviously not everybody's personality, right? F-U-N, okay?
Yeah.
That's going to work for high I's, but high C's, maybe not so much. Yeah. So you don't want, the entire culture can't be fun. So how would you motivate, how would you work with a high I if you had to manage one?
Yeah, I think number one is understanding that they are different and they have differences and they're motivated. They have a different communication style. So number one, understanding that and understanding that yours is different. So because again, we can pop the bubble really fast in all of those other, the other personality type or behavior types. So the high D, for an example, to kind of answer that question, because we want the bottom line. We want, hey, quick, let's go. We want to win. So then that high I is so excited that we can easily just bring them down to where they don't want to perform at that optimum level. So I think understanding that they are different and you got to communicate with them differently. And because they're not necessarily doing it so that they'll win or they're not going right to the bottom line, they're going to get there, but they might have to go through, like Ricky, I call it his process. He'll because he's also a verbal thinker. So he's thinking and talking at the same time. And where before I'd be like, okay, you've already said that once. Let's get to the bottom line. I would just go, you know what? No. This is his process. So I got to realize, embrace that difference. And then it doesn't get you as frustrating or as frustrated. And then you're able to get them in their optimum level. Because now all of a sudden he feels like, oh, dang, he's feeling me. And he wants me to perform. And we got this. Okay, now I'm ready to go. And so instead of deflating him and taking away and making, wanting him to perform in my style, I think that's why the key is to really understand your style and other people's style so that you're able to go, okay, their style is not my style, and embrace that difference.
And I call that extroverting, right? When someone's trying to talk an idea through, I call it extroverting because I do the same thing as someone who is also going to be a high I, not to the same extent as Ricky over there in terms of the high. But what you're saying though is that the key to DISC is it's behavioral in the sense that we all kind of have default tendencies. But we need to be able to change our behavior. Say if you're a manager or owner, business owner, right? We need to change our behavior, our managerial behavior in light of who we're talking to, right? If Ricky's a high I, then I need to take the ownership of changing the way I communicate, right? And that's true for everybody, no matter what their real profile
Yeah,
is.
and a lot of companies we work with, they'll actually take one of the printouts that show that, and they'll put it on their, by their cubes or by their offices. So then when you're walking into the office, you realize, okay, hey, here's the high I. So I've got to, again, it just is a quick reminder to go, okay, if this isn't my style, natural style, I've got to, if I want to communicate, I've got to communicate through their behaviors.
Well, that assumes the high I is actually in their office to be talked
Yeah,
to
they will-
because
That's
they're,
exactly right.
they're
They'll probably
probably
have the
going to
The
everybody
high
else's
I
office.
lives in the water room,
Yeah.
the water break
Yeah.
room.
The water, yeah.
But
the
I
break
also
room,
think
water
that to
cooler.
that point, you've got to be patient too as a manager when you're talking to a high I. And to Patrick's point, you got to let them run their course because they have to go through that whole process. A high I also uses body language like to the 10th degree. I mean, they speak with their hands, their facial expressions.
Yeah, they're going to move around a
They
lot,
move
in
around a
different
lot, right.
subjects, and yeah.
So Ricky, this is one of the trainings. A lot of you guys do the DISC training, but I know I've seen you do the DISC training. You sometimes, when you talk about DISC, you talk about some famous personalities that are the different letters. So help the listeners understand. High I. What are some famous people who are high I's that people are like, oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oprah Winfrey.
Oprah Winfrey. Okay.
That's a high I right there.
Yeah.
Who
else?
Richard Branson,
Okay.
right? Owner of Virgin. Who else we have?
I think at one point you said Bill Clinton, right? He's
Clinton.
a high I, right?
Clinton is a high I. Yep.
He
Right.
played the saxophone on
Richard
Arsenio
Simmons.
Hall. So
Richard Simmons. Richard Simmons. Yeah.
he might be up there with you there with that high I there.
I'm ready to start working out with.
I love it. Okay, so what are the pros, right? So I think sometimes when we talk about these personalities, we can kind of talk about the negative, especially if you're not that personality, right? So Rick, I'm going to let you, and then I'll have the others speak. What are really the benefits of being a high I and having high I's on your team? And then I'll let Patrick and Kevin respond to that as well.
I would say, and then we'll figure out what you guys say. Right.
We'll see if there's matches in the room, right?
The high I, kind of to the very creative role in the problem solving, they do talk out loud, and to the point that if there's a challenge that the team is facing, they're the ones who are going to say, "Hey, listen, there's a silver lining to every cloud, whatever the situation is." And I will throw one other nugget in there. It's good, in my opinion, because I'm high. It's great. Patrick might disagree, but at some point, if we really believe in something, we're going to bring it up. Sometimes it might not be so in your face at that time. We'll kind of retreat, but expect us to come back and fight another day. We don't take no's. We take no's actually fairly easily, but we, in the sense of, it doesn't distract us, it doesn't deter us, it doesn't put us down. Where some people can hear the words no and they are crushed and crumble, the high I will come back and rally. The other cool thing and great thing about a high I is they are about the team. They sometimes can come off and people think they're very fake, they're very disingenuous. Like, look at that person, it's all about show. Oh my God, they just want all the eyes on them, right? There's a funny joke in my house. It's like, oh, it's the Ricky show, right? Because it's just all about Ricky all the time. And as I kind of joked about with it, you know what I mean? But it can bring areas of tension where people are like, oh, that person is just disingenuous, when they're genuinely, authentically themselves and they want to be of service, they want to help, and it's not about them as much as people think it's about them. So if you can leverage that and say, hey, they want to bring their voice to the table, so if you give them a voice to be heard, watch the magic happen. If you stifle a high I, to Patrick's point, you'll end up getting a subpar performance when you can have some magic and some ideas that you never even thought of. And that's the idea. Is again, it's helping. They want to be part of it. They want to be engaged. They're happy to lead meetings for the most part, And so if you want somebody to kind of be that spokesperson or the voice. When some great leaders have amazing ideas, but they don't want to be the voice, you can leverage the high I to be like, hey, here's a great idea. Would you be our spokesperson? The high I is like, yeah. And they will now run with that idea because you've encouraged them. And now they can be the voice piece for your entire company, the mission, that goal, whatever. So there's ways you can leverage it. And it's a team-focused effort.
Yeah, I think to that point, you're right. High Eyes, they're good business development people. They're the people that you want in your community. I also think that, if you've got meetings where you're acknowledging people, those are your lead people to run those meetings because they will certainly celebrate and lead that charge for celebration.
Get on the HR committee that does all the celebrations
Yes,
for your
that's the
organization,
high
right?
eye.
You need high eyes running that. Absolutely.
But I think also what Ricky does really well as a high eye, he can give you a good compliment sandwich. You know what that is, right?
Explain it for everybody.
Like he will compliment you and then kind of tell you what he's thinking or tell you exactly what how he's feeling about it, and then end with another compliment. I go, there goes Ricky. He's he's got that compliment sandwich going.
But all you recall is the middle part of the sandwich,
middle
right?
part,
That's
right?
all you're
Yeah.
reflecting on that, right? There are folks out there who say the compliment sandwich is not the best tactic to giving feedback, but we'll talk about that
Yeah,
at another podcast episode. So, Patrick,
That's the high eye.
That's how he operates.
just because it's a high doesn't mean it's always effective, right? Okay, Patrick, what are the pros here of a high eye in the team?
I think the high I is going to lead a team to a common goal. And I think they're going to rally people around them. They're going to make sure everybody's, excited and energized. And so they're great at leading teams. They're, again, we said super optimistic. And so, they're just going to be looking at the opportunity. I think they see opportunity a lot easier than most other of the personality or the behavior types. Because they just, there are no
barriers.
Yeah,
right?
there's no barriers, and so they're, I think they're super creative, and just energized. And like Kevin and I, we've had times when we're driving down and we're frustrated about one thing or another, and then we're like, let's get Ricky on the phone, and then he gets on. Hey,
Yeah,
I
that's
love
right.
you, guys. What's up? We're like, that
is so right too, because
Yeah,
when I
they'll
get
bring
frustrated,
energy.
I settle back into my seat and I'm starting to analyze things, and I can't get that I in me to go, it's all good, it's all great, and I'm stewing.
Yeah, and they'll bring energy. They can bring energy to a room, and I think it's funny, those of whoever's, if you're in the Vegas market, if you ever meet anybody in the business market, all you have to say is Ricky, and there's only one person in this whole. He's like the Cher or the Prince.
Mayor.
He's like literally, yeah, he's the mayor to the mayors. I've been in things where the mayor of Henderson will come up and be like, hey, Ricky, and I'm like, who is this?
She's just good people.
Well, that's it. And that's one of the other benefits, right? A high I often does have some sort of relationship or connection with a lot of people, right, in the community. Now, it may not be deep, right, in terms of learning everything about your life, everything. That's kind of more of the high S. We'll talk about that in a future podcast episode. But they do. They know a lot of people, and they're great referrers. They're great networkers, right, in terms of that. So those are some of the beautiful things.
And
Okay.
for your organization, I'm just going to add one more thing.
Please.
Your high I tend to be great visionaries.
Yeah.
Because they like to dream.
So
And Ricky does dream big.
Ricky's getting a lot of compliments here, but we're going to turn the table here and talk about the challenges of working with high I. But here, I'm going to, this time, for the sake of keeping peace, I'm going to start with Kevin and Patrick, and then Ricky, you'll end this so you can defend yourself if you need to defend yourself. All right, so Kevin.
It's all good.
All right, right, no,
it's
yeah,
not,
that's
it's not
good,
your
that's
turn to
good.
talk, Ricky. It's not your turn to talk.
All right.
So, all right.
So the
Kevin,
high
challenges.
the challenges, especially when you got them on a sales call, they'll talk past the close.
Yeah. Why are you giving Ricky look? Has he done that recently?
Because he is. He loves. I mean, again, he's so awesome with delivering content and delivering the pitch. Sometimes I go, okay, you said it. You said enough. Just let's let it go.
Silence.
Silence.
Yeah.
Silence.
Okay.
We'll talk past the close.
There you go. Good stuff. All right, Patrick, what are your thoughts?
And I think again that the flip side of the optimistic coin, right? Sometimes they're over optimistic, or most of the time,
not realistic,
they're,
right?
Yeah, they're over optimistic in a situation, and so it's they don't have a sense of reality, and they trust indiscriminately. So they'll trust too fast, and then it's like, dang, that'll come back and bite them or bite the organization. once
Guilty.
in a while. Yeah.
Guilty as charged. Yeah, absolutely. I would say too that with a high I, and I'm speaking for myself a little bit too, but also working with high I's, is they can get bored quickly, right? And so part of the manager's role is to try, how do we, going back to the fun, but how do we spice this up? Like the worst thing you could do to high I is have them be in front of the computer for 8 hours a day, looking at spreadsheets. Like that just kills their soul, and I literally mean kills your soul,
Yeah.
because
Yes, I'm feeling you so
you're
hard
feeling
right
that, right? You know?
They need an environment where they're free to move around.
Right.
They're-
High
they're-
people contact.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Get
can't be
to-
sitting at a desk all
and
day.
different situations to come up, and
They also
they
want to
love
be
it.
included
Yeah,
in most everything.
Yeah.
and that can be good or bad, right? In terms of the challenge, that could be a challenge, right? Because I was like, no, I need to focus on your role here. I don't need you to be involved in this that has nothing to do with you, right?
And I think, and sometimes back to that, where they don't give up on an idea. So sometimes it's like we recently had a situation. I go, I feel like this is deja vu. We've already
3 years later,
we said no 3 years ago that we weren't doing.
I
that.
have not given up yet.
Here's why, and I laid it, and I'm like, he's like, yeah, but.
But high I is a yeah.
I ain't done.
Yeah,
I ain't done.
Hey, we're technology. We're so much further along now.
Yeah, they
Now
don't
is the
give up.
time.
Well, and I'll say one more. Then I'm going to turn it over to you, Ricky. What are the challenges that you know from yourself? But I would say sometimes, again, I'm a little bit on the high I spectrum as well. I get caught up in the storytelling aspect of things. I don't back it up with real numbers.
Yeah.
And I've upset quite a few high D's and high C's, especially because I don't have the backup to my argument, right? And because I'm depending on my influence side, I'm depending on my storytelling to win you over. But I'm not winning you over because I haven't provided
And that's
data.
where you can come across as it being too good to be true.
And then they're like, oh, we don't believe you. Let's see the numbers, right? Okay, Ricky, I'll let you defend yourself, right? What are the we lifted you up,
Shots
then we beat
fired.
you down, And so, what are some of the challenges that you see because you're living in this high I all the time, and you know there are pros and cons to the way that you operate.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about those challenges.
Okay, some of the stuff that I mentioned earlier, but everything you said are again, it's back to emotional intelligence and self-awareness, right? And knowing yourself is the first step to being able to be an effective communicator and to be great with your team and understanding, hey, here's my strengths, my superpower, but also being able to take some of that positive feedback, though, that constructive criticism, like, hey, let's bring it down so that you can be effective because we know where your heart's at, right? And so for the high I, we are emotional people. Right, it's a people driver versus task driver. So we use words like "I feel," and feelings are how we lead, right? And so we trust. Patrick's, it's our Achilles heel. Is we trust so much. If you say, "Hey, trust me," yeah, you got it. I'll give you my trust. Now you lose my trust, that's on you, right? Now for a high I, the problem is then you can stab us in the front, and with enough time, we'll be like, "Oh, and here's the knife back. Go ahead," right? Like we'll just keep coming back because we believe in people. We believe the best in people, and sometimes it leads to not. Again, sometimes we don't live in reality, right? Is it superpower for us? Absolutely, because we can see things in a world where people are like, "How, bro? How do you live there? I wish I could live in that world." Other times, when reality's reality, it hits and it's kind of hard for us. So it's that balance and understanding, hey, what can we do, what can't we do, and how do we balance that with other individuals and saying, hey, when do I need to, again, kind of say, I don't need to be part of every meeting, every conversation, because it has nothing to do with me, even though I want to be part of that team. I want to be part, let me rally, and what can I help with? Sometimes like, no, bro, we're good. The other problem is because we love to talk and we love relationship, it's very important, especially if you're an owner or a manager of a high I. We take long lunches. Time management is horrible for us because we don't want to ruin the relationship. So if we're building that conversation, we're building that connection, we're talking and laughing, having a good time, even though the meeting should have ended like 15 minutes ago, right? We don't want to lose that ether and then shut somebody down. And a high I needs to be like, hey, or a manager needs to be like, no, here, and give them tools so they can actually wrap it up and say, oh, hey, in the beginning of your meeting, say, I have a hard stop at 1, or hey, at lunch, I've got to be done by this time. And you set that boundary on yourself so that you can, you already set the expectation versus you don't set the expectation. High eyes are just going to run and keep going. I can go on for another 30 minutes and just.
Yeah, there's no I in team.
There is one in win.
Oh, there it is. There it is. I think
He's going to come at the high eye.
I think
I got
he's-
you, my people.
I think he's used that line before. I have to say. So.
An eye.
All
There-
we
yeah,
do is
the-
win, win,
oh
win. No
my
matter.
gosh, there it is. There it is.
All
So,
right.
well, we had some fun with this, a little bit at Ricky's expense, but this is the beauty of high eyes because the high eyes will roll with conversations
be
like
able to
this.
sleep
And so, yeah, and Ricky's like, I had a good time because you just spent 30 minutes talking about me, right? This entire episode. So he's good, even though if we give him a little bit of a hard time, which is a beautiful thing. Really great insight though about the time management thing there at the end. That's where my high D takes over my high I. Like I got my calendar, right? So I'm high I, but that my D comes in and says, nope, I got to go on to this next thing. And so, but that's a very real thing and good for us to know, not only if you're high I, but again, especially if you're working with or managing a high I. So good news, we've got lots of information on the website about DISC because it's one of our favorite things to talk about at Peak Performance Partners. So go to 3-peak.com. You can take the DISC assessment right there. We have access to it. You can purchase it there and take a look at that. You get a whole full report that's like, 60, 70, 80 pages long about how to do it.
Quite a few sciences, so we got some different stuff to offer. Absolutely.
And we do deep dives with a lot of our clients, a lot of our folks with DISC. And so if this is something that you want to learn more about, you got to check it out, 3-peak.com, find out more. We also have a special training that we're doing for 2 hours on September 30th, 2025. This episode is going to release just before that. If we still have some spaces, check it out. We're doing it. If you want to find out more, we're doing a deep dive training for a couple hours on that. And you guys are all, of course, welcome to attend that one. Ricky, I think you and I are going to be doing that one together. So I'm excited about
brother.
about
You know it's gonna be
about making
fun.
that happen. It's going to be a good time. Absolutely. So because you got a bunch of high eyes doing the training. So. So that about wraps up this episode. Thanks again for joining us on the Are You Killing It podcast. Patrick, Ricky, Kevin, you guys are the bomb as usual. Thanks for joining us, making this happen. We'll see you the next episode. Take care, everybody.
Peace out.